This is Kitten Features, and you're listening to Show X Live with Ken in his student accommodation all the way in Scotland, and Wade in his white windowless van? Uh-oh, I better get out of here. Enjoy the show!
Hey, everybody. Oh, man. So it didn't do it on the thing like it should have. Bad show. There we go. No, so the challenge was that when I hit the intro thing, the buttons, depending on which mode I'm in Streamlabs, is whether it's happy or not about how it pulls over. And so that was something that I was just playing with, but no, we're good. So it just meant my transition to us took a second longer. So, good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. Welcome to the show. It is 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. GMT on this Sunday, the 11th of August, 2019. And welcome to our first post, episode 400. So, episode 401 episode as we go today. Welcome to the show, Ken. How are you doing today?
Hey. I don't know why I did that like a cartoon character who's making his debut on a TV show. Hey, it's Kenny from Scotland.
In the least Scottish sounding way possible.
Yeah. It's like a Mel Gibson Scottish, isn't it?
That's good.
Yeah, I'm good. I actually had a dream about you last night, sir.
Do tell.
All clothes were on, don't worry. I can't remember all the details. I think it was kind of like a wedding-y scenario where it was me, you, and a bunch of people out drinking and having fun. And I remember you were mad at somebody because it was the second day of our trip. And you were mad at somebody who came out and like had a couple drinks and went home, but didn't stay out for... Or they didn't show up till the second day when they were supposed to show up on the first day or something. And it was because they missed your birthday. And you were like, man... You missed my birthday, and they were like, "Oh well, that's the way that things turned out because of flight prices or something." And then you were like, "Oh, you're a douche! How dare you? How dare you screw up my birthday?" And yeah, that was pretty much the whole dream. I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but you know what it's like once you wake up, it instantly just disappears, doesn't it? So
all the details start to like slowly just minimize or dissipate as you try to think. of it. I've made a point when I've
for whatever reason. Yeah, go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, because of that aspect of dreams, I've made a point sometimes of trying to really focus. If I've had a exceptionally good or memorable or some reason just, interesting dream, to really try to think of some of the details right as I wake up because I know that's going to happen. And I should go so far, although it doesn't happen often enough that I've made the effort to do like almost a sleep journal and have something to write down. A
dream journal.
Yeah, something like that. Just only because I've had one or two that I've woken up that I recall just now more or less that it happened, not any details, but that was really cool, or something to that effect that made me want to remember details because either I wanted to tell someone that day or something like that just to reaffirm, like, no, this was a really neat overall thing.
Well, yeah, most dreams like tend to have a rather strong emotional presence of whatever that emotion that was present in the dream is. So if it's a nightmare, it's particularly scary. If it's a really fun, enjoyable dream, then it's particularly fun and enjoyable. If it's an exciting dream, or in my case, when you're having fun drinking with buddies, it was an exceptionally exciting evening and we had lots of fun. And that's the cool thing about dreams. But yeah, it's really hard to remember them. And I'm sure I read an article somewhere, a psychological article on why that is, but I can't remember the details, ironically enough. But anyway, yeah, so I had a dream about you last night, sir. So that was, I just thought I'd let you know. I always tell people. Do you find that really interesting or really dull when people tell you about their dreams?
I think it all depends. Some dreams, just the content, right? Because some dreams are somewhat mundane, but some, I think, kind of speak to what a person's concerns are and focus a bit of what's been on their mind, things like that. So it's sometimes interesting to help listen to, maybe interpret what some people have experienced in dreams. Not to say that I have any skill in it.
You.
Well, that's the thing, right? I have no skill in that kind of interpretation, but it's something where I've had people share dreams where I've been, oh, that's really cool, and it sounds like, whatever, as to a means as to what maybe caused that to happen, right? Oh, wow. So Ken and I were talking about at the beginning of the show how crystal clear and wonderful our internet connection was, and now it
Yeah.
hiccuped terribly on us. Like for a moment there, it just went
really?
nope. Yeah, I got a little beeping saying that it was searching for our signal, and said we had a
Oh
poor
wow.
connection.
It's still on like beautiful HD for me. Like I'm pulling you down fine. I'm pulling down the Twitch stream as well at the same
Huh.
time. It looks great.
Maybe just the hiccups in the tubes under the sea. But
Yeah,
that was interesting.
maybe.
It just had you stop for a moment, and it did this pinging sonar. No, that's okay.
Oh, fun. You
Ah,
can blame Skype for that.
well, let's go ahead and get into things with a bit of.
Dysfunctional deviations.
What have you been up to since the last week, Ken?
Honestly, I haven't really been up to much. I actually wrote absolutely nothing in our prep because I looked at my calendar and I was like, "What did I do in the past week?" And there's just nothing interesting. I think it's because the last couple of weeks have been so bloody exciting that everything in comparison seems minor.
Are you, in a way, now that the your thesis and everything has been submitted, all that like the paperwork and prep is done, are you giving yourself a moment to actually relax and almost enjoy it?
Yeah, but most of that's going to come under the geek rate because that's how else am I going to relax than geeky ways, right?
Okay.
So I've got a couple things I could talk about, but I think they should all be saved for the geek cred section because they all do fit there.
No, that is fair.
In an unusual turn of events, I'm gonna let you fill up this section instead of me taking
That's
the,
all right.
90% of the show.
There's plenty of other things to talk about today. All I was going to bring up in my dysfunctional this week was some of the shows I've been watching, which have primarily been anime this week, mostly because I finished up the last episodes of Lucifer that were on TV that I had been watching. Oh, I do have to put one other in there. The one that I can bring up that I haven't, or that is not animated, is I started just because I kept hearing about it from people posting how much they were enjoying a new series that's out on Amazon Prime, and that is the show called The Boys.
Oh, so I've watched a few episodes of that now.
Okay, you have as well. So for me,
A few.
I've only watched, 3 episodes maybe? 3 or 4?
We're about the same.
And it's something where I'd heard about it, and one of the weird things is I remember the previews for it and seeing those come out, and that I was curious to see the show, but I had completely forgotten the actual name of it from the previews.
Well, it's not particularly memorable, is it?
Well, so when I heard just The Boys, and I saw people talking about, like, oh, this show, it's amazing, it's got, it's so gritty and so much going on, that I thought, based on the name alone, that this had to have been some, like, inner city series that was come out, because I always think back to like Boys in the Hood or something like that from, a more inner city cultural type thing. And so just by name alone, I was like, what? And then I went on Amazon Prime and I said, well, let me check out an episode. As it kicked on and I saw what it was, I was kind of like, oh, snap. It's that show. It's the one that I was hoping to see. No idea that it was called The Boys. Etymologically,
that word, the word boys has kind of, I think we've witnessed a change in its meaning over the years. Because when I was younger, boys used to be like, small male children. But now I think boys usually just refers to sort of mischievous younger men who like to go out and have fun and that kind of thing. It's interesting that sort of changed. But yeah, Ken watched the crap out of this. Like I watched it. I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'll watch this. This is neat. And I watched a couple episodes, and she was like, oh, we need to hurry up and watch the rest. And I was like, go ahead without me. So she just powered through it. Like she loved it. She absolutely adored it. But she says it's totally worth getting to the end. But
okay.
Man,
I heard that.
I don't know.
I've heard the end ramps up significantly. That's like the one piece I've heard about it where people said it leads to what could be a next season so well.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious. For me, watching it has been an interesting experience because I knew it was supposed to be somewhat off the traditional path from what we've seen with all the different hero type movies and shows that are out there. For people who don't know about The Boys, it's on Amazon Prime, and it's a series talking about, in general, what it is if superheroes were real, but the best way I've heard it described is, and in being real, they've been corporatized. Like corporations have built up around them, and it has become a money-driven industry.
Well, it's the most realistic version of what would happen with superheroes in the Western world, right?
In a lot of ways, it is. Yeah, because it has so much going on, and it's interesting because they set up the world in the first episode. In the first episode, I have to double check if it's like double length pilot versus other episodes, because the first one goes for a while. But it sets up a superhero world, and it seems fairly genuine on the surface right away, right when you see it, with little bits where you notice that kind of corporation piece of it, just tidbits at the beginning. But it all shifts right and like this, where it's talking about a side story between normals in the world, a couple, and how they're talking about what experiences they're having in life and what they're trying to accomplish next. And then all of a sudden there's a pivotal scene that I did not see coming. Caught me very off guard, and I think sets the tone for probably what the rest of the show is going to be. Like that one scene where everything shifts, because it is so, and the best way I can say is visceral. And when you...
Yeah. I felt like I knew something was coming, but I didn't know it was going to be something quite
Not
so
that.
hideous. Yeah.
Right? And so when it happens, you're just kind of like, holy cow, what just happened, right? And they do it in such a way that you see it, you start to kind of process it, and then they give you even more of a visceral aspect that really sets it in stone of what just happened. And then from
Absolutely.
there, it continues into, and what are the repercussions, right? What does that mean in the world that exists? And how does it play out? And for me, it plays out so well. Yeah, it just, and the way they're following multiple characters, each of the pseudo mains, or like just the named characters in it, and what their lives are in the world, and how you slowly get introduced to different aspects. They do not shy away very quickly from making this a dark underbelly story of corporate greed and what it means to have people that are basically the top super powerful creatures in the world.
Yeah, because I think over the years, the superhero genre has not only changed in the medium in which it's presented. I mean, obviously it was comics mostly originally, some movies and TV shows that were of varying success, and then the extreme success of the Marvel universe, and to a lesser extent the DC universe. I think that this is an entirely different viewpoint on the idea of a superhero TV series. We see this kind of thing in comics. Don't be wrong. This exists in comics.
Oh yeah,
this kind
in
of thing
comics,
is,
just like
overdone comics.
Well, and just like books, right? You have, if you seek them out, every example of storytelling is there, because comic books, manga, anime, all these things are just mediums at which you express a story. And so there are comics, they just tend not to be the top-selling, big-name DC, Marvel kind of comics, right? You have to sometimes go to, was it the Mad Cows, maybe even the Dark Horses, at some of those side comic companies to find some of the more realistic kind of storylines. Because a lot of what people went to for the capes and cowls that you see in superheroes is a level of the Superman-esque thing of a perfect character. And a lot of that coming out of, you follow the history of comics, when superheroes really came about was coming out of some of the things with World War II and Great Depression in the U.S., things like that. Things that were really negative in the world, where people were looking for iconic figures to look up to. And so that's what I would say kind of set the overall stage for how we view superheroes and what they were first built up as. And now this is looking at it from an entirely different perspective of taking that. One of the things I enjoyed about Marvel Comics a lot of ways was taking real people and giving them powers and seeing how that would interact with them. This takes it to a level beyond, where one of the interesting things I see so far is that so far in this world that we've seen, just a few episodes in I've yet to see a super villain. Right? It instead...
Well, that's the thing, is because the superheroes, due to the corporate nature of themselves, they are both. Right?
Well, and that's the key, right? It's
both.
When you have people of power that are real people but are influenced heavily by corporations that are out there for money, and the good and bad that comes of that.
And you know what? In that sense, they reflect corporations, right? They reflect what a company is. A company will provide jobs for thousands of people and help feed the poor and the rich alike, but they also have this evil, nefarious side where they don't just give you that stuff for free. They're getting this large chunk on the side, and they're lobbying governments for their own selfish legal reasons and so on, right?
It all goes back to the process and effort of making money. And when I believe corporations, this is me personal, outside of the entertainment, all this real life commentation that I do on the world is that I have a built-in cynicism and distrust of the motivations behind any group that is publicly traded, any company that is on a stock market and therefore is primarily trying to satisfy stockholders that are making money. And therefore, if my opinion is you go back and look at what are their motivations, why are they making these decisions, I can seemingly trace it always back to a money-making decision for those stockholders. And so, like you're saying, there may be some things that seem, altruistic or whatever it is, to that it could be for a good. I never accept that it is for a greater good of humanity, that it is always for money. Now, individuals can break that.
We can only hope that people who are working high up in these companies have a modicum of humanity left, and they do feel like, I have all this power. I can control what ads are created, our target audiences, the products that we make, and how they're made, and what they're made of, and who makes them. All that stuff, right? And you hope that the reason they choose to do a more ethical course, even if you hope it's because they've got some modicum of humanity left, not because they think it's entirely due to profits. However, that doesn't mean there's not always going to be priority on profits first, right?
Well, and that's the thing. Well, I always say that if they do something that is wonderful for the world, it's likely because it also earns that company more money. And maybe it's just the advertising aspect or the social, it looks good, and therefore more of a target audience may pay, right? It may buy their products. But in the end, I always say it comes to a bottom line. And now I give a pass because, again, individuals can be good. I tend to, and you can say otherwise, right? But I tend to believe that the Bill Gates of the world and the Elon Musk and people like that of the world are actually good people. Now, their companies, the Microsoft, the Tesla, the companies that they have built that are run by groups and are doing it again for corporate profit, not so much. Anyhow, like I said, that's my soapbox commentation on just, in general, what I believe big corporation, capitalism, stuff like that leads to. And really a cautionary thing just to say, if you're ever really wondering why things are being done, almost every step of the way when it comes to businesses, it's go back to the money. I mean, you can even trace that in a lot of people, but it's follow the money. Who's looking to profit or somehow get a gain in power or influence from a decision? And you likely get closer to some truth as to what motivations are. Anyhow, back to The Boys and such is The Boys is such an interesting take. And I don't know how far you've gotten. I got through the sequence that kind of, what do I want to say? The sequence in the closed out diner where I don't know if you've gotten that far, Ken, but it's the sequence that ends up with... I don't think
I have, actually, no.
It's the sequence that highlights Translucent. And
no,
okay.
No, I've not.
Okay, so I won't go to that, but man, does that go places. And it's interesting because so far for me, the main character shift has been... Because I personally see two main characters in the series so far. The one...
I felt that, yep.
The one normie, which I forget his name off the top of my head. But the one, that story of someone in the world that does not have superpowers but is affected by those that have superpowers. His story and what's happening around him. And then one of the newest super to what is considered the top in the world, the Seven, Starlight, which is gal that has a... It's interesting because it does seem like all of the superheroes have some level of power. Really? Why is it doing this again? And so just as I'm getting it looks like Ken's video completely stopped, like his call ended. Why? Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay. So Ken is getting things prepped because, as he said earlier, Kitten Features, there we go. This comes back now. But this being, Ken was very specifically bringing in Kitten Features because she has a bit more, what I want to say, influence or specifics when it comes to The Boys. That Kitten Features has some thoughts and opinions. Now, Kitten Features, we are trying our best not to spoil anything, because a lot of people may not have heard The Boys yet or seen any of it. I am only about 4 episodes in. I was just telling Ken that I just got through the initial arc that culminates in the story behind Translucent. And that I was talking about how I feel the main characters in it right now are the main guy that doesn't have powers but is affected by them, and Starlight. Those are my 2, as I would choose today, main character storylines that it allows them to have a visibility into the world from their perspectives.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I'm not spoiling things.
No,
right?
no.
Like, so,
we're not talking.
Don't do any spoilers. Don't say
we're not going to talk any plot pieces specifically. More kind of the way the world works and the way characters interact, and kind of the difference between what The Boys is presenting in a superhero series than what we see from Marvel and DC and our everyday superhero stuff, right? Why this is such a unique and interesting take in a world that was said earlier by, I think, Copy, that she feels the genre is so oversaturated that she's become jaded and has a lack of interest in heroes. Where for me, this is so different.
I just I wasn't expecting. I didn't know what to expect, but I went into it because I'm really not that big. Ken will tell you, I'm not that big of a superhero guy. I mean, I like Deadpool. Everybody likes Deadpool, but I like Spider-Man. Not the Amazing Spider-Man, but the more recent Spider-Mans. Like I love Spider-Man, so I'm not really into that. But I think this is probably the most accurate representation of what would actually happen.
That's exactly what I said.
If superheroes were real, you know how they would become this corporate entity and it would be all on brand and things like that. And it's a lot of fun to see this idea in something that's, I don't know, it's so far from our reality, but kind of close to home as well. So I think the juxtaposition is amazing. Yeah, I'd hardly recommend it to anybody.
It really is. And that's the thing.
Watch it.
Yeah, I know.
What we talk about, because like I said,
watch it.
I'm only those few episodes in, but I've also heard, and you may confirm or not, the opinion that however it transpires and turns out, right, as it goes further and finishes in the season, I was told it wraps up in a way that just baits you into wanting the next season to happen. And that it really leads you to a point where you're like, yes, whatever is next. Okay, good.
It handles everything with such a human touch, and I think the final episode is just really, oh god,
Careful.
I can't. Like,
no, that's good. That's good to hear. That's good to hear, because I really am looking forward. That excites me then to continue on this process. Because right now, The Boys is the only basically live action series I'm watching right now. I've been binging as I've had time. I had told Ken I just finished all 4 seasons that are on Netflix of Lucifer, which I really enjoyed, which is another comic book based series, came from Vertigo, and Neil Gaiman, who I love as an author, so love that series. And so rolling into this now is another superhero one, but holy cow, a different take, has been interesting.
So fresh, and I really love what they did with the I don't think I'm spoiling anything, but I really love what they did with the Wonder Woman character.
Oh, okay, yes.
Like, she's amazing. Like, she has quite a good character arc as well, and I think I think the characters are so well done, and it's just a lot of love is put in there. You can tell.
That makes me very excited and curious, because so far up to where I'm at, she's been in the background, and it's something where she absolutely fits that role as like the Wonder Woman Amazonian type character you see, but you can tell is in the background because what is it? I want to say the Highlander, but it's not. The
Homelander.
Homelander. I was going to say it's not the Highlander. Homelander, which is the main, essentially, analogous to Superman character, right? Your default Superman character. Captain Marvel, everything, right? They're red, white, and blue, but has all the abilities. You have that character, and she so far has not come up, but at the same time has been living in this world that you're starting to get the insight from, especially from Starlight as a newbie coming in and having to go from and this, hopefully not spoiler as well, but Starlight comes out as your, default, like, Midwestern, perfect...
Pageant girl.
Yeah, right. Pageant girl who's come up, who had... Interesting, even they discuss a little bit of her past, saying that she had superpowers early and was recognized, and her mom put her into all the Little Miss superhero pageants, essentially. Like, okay, I could see that being a thing.
There's quite a good duality to that. Yeah, there's a lot of ties, I think, between like Toddlers and Tiaras and like the superhero kind of like, I could see that. So good with
that. And then they continue on where she comes in with, unfortunately, a doughy-eyed, what do I want to say? An expectation and idealism of what it means to be a superhero. When she interviews and stuff and why she makes a part initially is because she is that completely honest and what do I want to say? I don't want to say naive, but she has a pureness to her. That is, she sees superhero and having abilities as honestly thank you, Tom, wholesome. Wholesome is what she is. That she wants to save the world, save everybody she can, and make the world a better place. That is absolutely why she's a superhero. And to take that idealism into the corporate world, where you are now right at the top cream of where you're not just a worker bee who gets to blindly do your everyday life, but you're now a highlight piece that you get to see both sides, right? Where you think you're doing great, and it's a challenge, right? Because she has to experience things from what it means to be corporately funded and sponsored and supported, where she has to do things their way, to having to accept/fight with or decide on what her wholesomeness and her ideals mean as she goes forward, because there's some things she seems to have to compromise on, and then there's other things that she just does not want to, and it's crazy to kind of see her journey through that challenge, right? To all the things she's having to deal with, which I'm very curious to see more. And then you have the opposite side of the guy without any abilities and the tragedy he has to suffer to then change his outlook, which we're not really speaking of what happens, because that I told Ken that was for me a pivotal change in that pilot episode of what is the feel of this series. When that scene happens, I was like,
different.
Oh, and so but seeing his journey as he also transitions from who he is at the beginning and how he's barely able to manage regular life things and just kind of going along to getting a purpose and feeling like he maybe does have some capability. And for me, where it just finished in that arc with Translucent, like his storyline piece in that interaction, and I can't wait to see what happens coming after that. What's next, right? As he's processing everything that he has experienced with that, like, whoa. So yeah,
I'm glad you're taking it slow with it, though, because I have to say, like, my tendency is to binge, but I would suggest anybody that watches the show to med it out and to kind of like not meditate on it, but like think about it. Yeah, process it, because it's just so much, and you want to just grab everything.
There is clearly a lot of thought behind each character and what they represent, not just in terms of the obvious ones like Captain America mixed with Superman as the lead guy, right? But, every single one of them represents either a facet or an ideology that they're trying to express, including, modern political commentary and things like that. You can feel through it as well, I think. For example, there's a feminist ideologue as well, and so on, that can be kind of expressed through different characters. It's quite interesting.
I have to say, and I think this might be a little off topic, but, Suicide Squad?
Yep.
I feel like this is what if people did Suicide Squad well.
Actually, no, Kitten. That is a wonderful take on it, because, and it's interesting. I'm glad that Tom Bad Guy's in our audience right now, because he's a huge comic book fan as well, and he said he binged this all in one sitting, which I've done with quite a few series. I did that with, what was the last one I did that to? Gosh, it was so much I binged it once that I was kind of like, oh yeah, so that just happened. I forget which one it is now. Jeez. But it's something that, because Suicide Squad had a lot of potential in that I actually feel like Deadpool's what screwed them up. That they saw Deadpool and how successful and the good reaction to it was, that they suddenly felt they had to do retakes and make it more funny, where I really think DC's place in the world is gritty and that they could be the hardcore stories and the ones that aren't happy because they're dealing with gods. And so I wish DC would keep to that. And so you're right. The Boys does that and keeps to it and is so good. And man, the casting and the talent they brought in, right? That's just, it's
Did
such
you know
good.
that Huey is Meg Ryan's kid? Meg Ryan.
No.
I
did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool as heck.
Meg Ryan's kid. Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's funny, because his acting gets better as it goes through, as his character starts to flesh out. Well, even because Carl Urban, right? Holy cow, that man. And to take on a role like this, which is, he is a straight movie star, and coming down to what is a series, even though it's weird, right? Because shows that are coming out on like Prime and HBO and other things, even Netflix exclusive, you kind of get this weird back and forth where it's not just a television series like you get on a normal network, because they have the backing and polish behind it to actually be somewhat better, a higher level that I would say is in this weird place above regular television, but not quite at the movie scope. And so seeing an actor like Carl Urban come in and play such a great, gritty role.
Oh, and having fun with it. You could tell he's having the best time.
That's got to be amazing. Gosh, I love what he's doing with this with what he's doing in this series. And so I do really look forward to spending more time on it. It's so good. And I'm now understanding the hype that I've been seeing on social media and stuff from other people who are making memes or saying stuff about the boys, just going like, man. And I'll hold off on getting into details about the flaws of all the characters, where it's one of those things I think give it a little more time for people to consume. Maybe come back and revisit once Ken and I have finished it. And then we can
I hope you're going to finish it.
We can have some other discussions about some of the flaws, because even down to where, for the most part, where you're introduced to it, Homelander is the Boy Scout. But then you realize he's just like anybody else and has flaws, and his flaws are deep-seated. And in right, and how that actually shows out, maybe one of the scariest, right, aspects of the whole series. When you have someone of his capability that has his flaws, and you're just like, whoa, oh boy.
And I'm not going to give anything away, but his origin story, I think, ties in so perfectly with what they're trying to, like, achieve with the show and with this juxtaposition. And I won't say anything more.
Okay, I'm on the same fence, because I haven't seen that yet, but I'm left with my last image of the Homelander after all the things that have happened so far from where I'm in, is the scene where Starlight comes into the building late at night, and he is just standing there looking at a picture of himself. And initially you're like, okay, we already know he's odd in his own way, but when it finally gives you the insight into why he's sitting there looking there, you just go, huh, yep, oh boy, yep. And so, yeah.
Dude's got some issues. Yeah.
Oh gosh.
But, yeah. Oh, but I you need to finish it, and then you need to finish it, and then you guys.
Yeah, we can only talk so much about it with our lack of experience. That's why I wanted to bring you up.
Well, it's funny.
Say your thoughts at the end.
Because, and I'll give, I know Ken can't hear me as much right now, but we went basically a half hour into the show talking about something we weren't even prepped to, because I think it is that impactful. And so I do recommend it to anyone out there who has a Prime account and can check it out, or other means if necessary. But check out The Boys. It's a ride. It's fun. And so
do it tonight. Do it today. Well, after the show, watch Show X first, and then do it.
Absolutely.
It's nice to see you.
Oh, good to see you, Kitten Features. So awesome to have you on. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, my love.
You're welcome. Here, come on, boys.
Oh God, she's got a tiny head.
Thank you, Ken, for bringing Kitten Features on. And actually, I think that might be the other one I did in a single night. That might have been it, Tom. Good Omens was, I think, the one that I watched in a single night on Amazon
yeah,
Prime.
it was a great show. Yeah,
so
I love it.
I have to give credit, because for a while I have not paid attention to Amazon Prime. Like, I was going there for
they snuck up with all this good stuff.
Yeah,
suddenly.
Someone out there in the producer land said, let's make some amazing content, because I was watching it for the Grand Tour. My Carnus and me, watching the boys on the Grand Tour do their thing. And that was about it. Every once in a while I'd go there if I couldn't find a movie that was coming through on Netflix or something like that. I'd maybe check Prime to see if it was there. But other than that, I was kind of like, meh, wasn't really watching. I have Prime to order things in a day.
Right.
As they're doing around the U.S. now. But so
actually,
yeah,
we have a buddy of ours who was saying that they really wanted to watch The Boys, and we were like, oh well, it's on Amazon Prime. And they're like, oh, how much? I was like, well, it's on Prime. You don't need to buy anything. It's just part of Prime. He's like, wait, what do you mean? Did they send it to you for free? I'm like, no, dude, they do streaming. He's like, what? I was like, yeah. How do you not know that Amazon Prime? Yeah, Amazon Prime does streaming. Like, but you pay full price for this, and you never noticed that they produce a streaming service.
For a lot of people like me, I got Prime so that I could ship presents to my nephews and nieces at Christmas, and it costs less than me going to the post office when I buy it locally and then shipping it to them, right? I just buy it on Prime, the same thing, and ship it directly to them, and I do the little gift box thing with who's it for, and wrap it. Sure, I'll pay the extra $3 and put it in some kind of box or whatever, and boom, gift. And it costs me less because I'm not spending an additional $20 to ship it. And so it's totally worth that. And so I spent the $100 a year basically for that initially. And then they started adding these other things, starting for me with the music streaming, which I still don't take enough advantage of. With Prime
is that
Music.
part of Prime?
Yes.
Or is that included?
They have Prime
No
Music.
way.
Yes. See, Ken, it's the same
Do you have
thing.
to pay extra?
No. It's all covered in Prime. Yes. That's
No
what's
way.
so slick about what Amazon is doing, is that you don't actually realize all of the benefits you get. And like another one that I haven't actually taken advantage of because I don't have one close to me is I went to a Whole Foods grocer the other day when I was meeting up with a friend to catch up. And because they're tied into Amazon, they around the store have Amazon Prime discounts in Whole Foods.
Oh, right.
And stuff like that. So it's amazing how many things Amazon has included in that same price that they've been doing forever.
No, so for
is it more for
UK
you?
anyway, Amazon Music is $7.99 on top per month, or £79 a year.
Oh, that sucks. Because for me, well, how much? One of the questions I have is, what is your Prime delivery? Like your normal, like what you pay for a year of Prime?
Oh well, I'm still on the student one because I managed to get that for the last time this year.
Nice.
So I think it was like £49 for a year.
So
but normally, yeah,
similar.
It's
Because ours is basically $100 a year, and so
yeah, well,
so
it's
similar.
a
Yours
more,
is
actually,
yeah, ours is a little bit more, but again, I think ours includes all of that. And
yeah,
so there might be some balance there or something where maybe in the long run you pay for everything, you're paying more, because with the music that would be unfortunate. And there might be additional tiers to it. I don't know myself, but yeah, I need to take more advantage of. And thank you, Amazon, for providing certain series like these that make me want to go and actually explore what you have a little bit more. So I'm appreciative of that, and I still don't do nearly enough on it, but as I've started to do a few things, it's kind of like, oh, this is cool. Well, that's nice, right? It's crazy.
yeah.
So props to them.
Yeah, I mean, like it's the kind of thing that I really wish I didn't have to pay for because I don't like spending that much money a year on something. But at the same time, I know fine well that it would cost more if I didn't pay for it.
No,
right?
I need to take advantage more of it. And I jokingly say because this being the first week I have of me not having my cousin living with me anymore, as he went with an opportunity with Amazon to open up a new store in Oregon. And
how's that been, by the way? How's it been having the house to yourself?
Interesting. It's still, I don't know, different in the sense that it's not like, thankfully my cousin wasn't a huge impact every day. He wasn't just like in my way constantly or anything. He was just here, right? And he was doing his own thing. But I have taken the opportunity to spend a little more time cleaning some of the house. Like I haven't done my spring cleaning this year because I was so busy, and now we're going into end of summer, and I'm just now doing some of the cleaning I've wanted to do. Like I actually pulled out, and this is so not fun, everybody, but real world stuff. Pulled out my washer and dryer from the wall, and cleaned behind them and the lint and everything else, and reattached.
One, yeah.
Well, because one of the things like the little line that comes off the back of the dryer had somewhat gotten loose, so some of the fluff would come out of it. Normally it worked mostly, but some, and so I had to reattach everything, clean it, wash it all down. Found a whole multitude of those things that fall between the cracks or where like in between them, like a whole bunch of hair ties, oddly enough, in there. Such that clean that all up, things like that, and just getting everything ready for if I did have guests, everyone else having spaces to stay now that are ready for them. And so it's been kind of nice in that sense. I have been shirtless more often in the house than I would otherwise have been.
That's the only part you're telling us that you were somethingless.
Well, it's one thing. I mean, at the same time, I don't want to put my own naked rear end on my furniture. So, so it's not like I've gone, full Monty walking around the house. It's more just normally to be courteous to anyone else in the house, I'd always make sure I had, not just pants, but a shirt on or something running around grabbing anything. But now it's like doing laundry and just walking back and forth like, hey, no big deal. Stuff like that. Little things, right? I know.
Each to their own, man. But I personally don't see the problem with enjoying the privacy of your own home to the maximum extent that you possibly can.
I have kept my music louder and my television late at night as loud as I want. Things like that, which is nice. And the other piece is because I only have myself to clean up after. It's nice because I'm slowly getting my house cleaner and cleaner as I go. Versus like where areas would start to build up or something like that. Because I only have myself to blame for anything that gets messy. So it's little things like that. But other than that, it's not like a big difference. You know, I keep all my other rooms I'm not using completely closed, and I've like reduced like the registers in them so that all the cooling is just hitting the areas I use.
So you're not gonna like you pile them full of crap or anything?
No. As far as I am concerned, in most cases, when those rooms are not occupied, they don't exist in my world. I keep them shut, and they're just not there.
That's a wise way of doing it. That way you don't end up. Yeah, exactly what I was saying. Having to maintain it every day, and it also means that you're not going to be tempted to fill it full of make another storage room.
God,
and then
no.
One day when somebody says, "Can I stay the night tonight?" You're like,
Yeah, the closest I've done is I washed a bunch of my blankets throughout the house, and I kept them in one of the guest rooms, piled on the bed, like folded on the bed there, because I didn't want them coming back out into the house until they were needed. And so I need to go clean up my linen closet and stuff like that, or find a better storage for those. That's about it. And that was mostly so I could pull some of the stuff from the rest of the house. Because I only need maybe one blanket downstairs, right? Things like that and such. So it's been interesting. And so far, I'm enjoying the process. But we'll see. You know, it'll continue through. You know, that's all just the freedom of me doing whatever I want. The challenge is going to be the financial side when I miss that rent check coming in each month and have the same bills to pay. So, yep. There'll be that.
Yeah,
piece.
that sucks. Yeah, that'll be noticeable.
That'll be. So, but otherwise that's been good so far. It'll also be different when I go away for a next trip or something, and I have to plan for the cats being alone for a week or something like that.
Yeah, that's always a pain, dude.
Well, so the nice thing with cats is I can just put out extra everything, and they'll be fine. I don't think they're used to it, so they may gorge themselves a bit, and so we'll see if I come back and there's no food or water left, and then I'll be like, well, that's because you fat girls decided to eat everything in a day or two.
I think there's a better way of doing that. I think there's timed food dispensers and water dispensers you can do.
There are, but I've never really run into that issue. At least with my previous cat, she was smart enough to kind of like, nobody's here. I will slow down my eating. And so she never ran into it because she was older. So this may be a learning opportunity for my two cats. We'll see. But I'm not too worried about it. They do mostly well, and they're getting a little better with me since they have only me to deal with. We'll see how it continues. Anyhow, but yeah, that's going on. The other things I wanted to bring up real quick just for my not geek-ish this week was still watching my anime of Hunter x Hunter. It's one of those long series that I'm slowly rolling through and enjoying. I just binged another one, which was on Netflix called God Eater. That's one that...
Oh, I've heard about that, yeah.
Yeah, I'd heard other people talking about it, and I enjoyed it. It's one of those that I actually appreciate the protagonist in. There was another one I just watched called Revisions. I'd forgotten it for a second. That was a little harder for me. It was one of these ones that was brought over by Netflix, and it has a bit of a CG animation to the whole thing. It had one of those flaws in an anime for me, or just something that makes it difficult for me to watch any series, in that I, throughout almost the entire series until maybe the last 2-3 episodes, could not get behind the protagonist, the main guy. I was just like, you are such an ass and cause so many challenges based on your rashness that it makes me not want to support you. And I've had that issue with other ones in the past, things like one of the classics is Neon Evangelion. That one where Shinji is just such a little butt that I cannot support him as a character, and therefore it makes it hard for me to watch the series. And another one from that was, Re:Zero, I believe it was, which started out strong as an anime where the main character kept reliving scenes whenever he would die. And then at some point he just becomes such a ass of a main character that you like the support cast so much better, and I just want him to almost just die and stay dead. Get frustrating to watch him. And so series like that, like I enjoy the series in spite of their main characters, and they almost made me not do it. But God Eaters is fun. I like the world it produces. The mechanics of it are fairly fun, and it ramps up in a way that I appreciate, and it is animated so beautifully. It's one of these ones where it has they have some budget there for the look and feel of it, and almost to a point where the scenes can seem to be too much going on at once with some of the fights. But at the same time, I feel like if I slow it down, all the animation's there, and you could still see it. It's just there's so much going on with it, so bright, so fast. It's like, whoa, what just happened? So there's a little bit of that. And more importantly for me, I'm super stoked because on Crunchyroll, one of my favorite series that I'd just loved back in the past has come back in Season 2. And that is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon? Season 2 is out on Crunchyroll, and I've been slow rolling that through, only watching 1 or 2 episodes at a time.
I can't remember this. Can you give a synopsis of the theme or what's about?
So this is one of those ones that comes through, and like people somewhat try to equate it to series like Sword Art Online or back in the day, what's the classic one everyone talks about being stuck in a game. But it's not. It's a fantasy world of magic and gods where the mechanics of it are treated like an RPG. Where as a hero, as a character that's brought up as one of the children of the gods or goddesses, they get sponsored into a house of these gods who've come down from heaven, are now living on the lower plane on Earth. And the heroes that go into their houses adventure through a dungeon down to lower and lower levels to get better treasure, notoriety, things like that, but to actually level up, gain experience, and when they do, they unlock new abilities and such. And the scenes where the gods who sponsor them are able to unlock them after they have enough experience. And so it's very much the mechanics.
Oh, it's quite interesting to have a game mechanic in an anime.
Well, and they play it out in a way that if you look at the mechanic, it plays like an RPG. But the way they play it through, it's just an animated story, and they don't have the tropes of a game. But yet they have the mechanics of the game. It's really an interesting thing for me, and it's a fantasy, so it has dwarves and elves and different monsters and things like that, a classic kind of D&D feel to it, with its own twist on the rules. But I really appreciate it because, one, the animation style is phenomenal, and it has one of the kind of storylines I love, which is its own kind of reoccurring plot that you catch in so many different stories, anime in particular. The main character being initially a very much underrated character that doesn't know what they're good for, doesn't necessarily have all the skills, doesn't believe in themselves as much, but has a driving passion to succeed. And then come to find out they actually have some of the highest potential in the world to do something amazing. And seeing it play out where it's a struggle, but then something succeeds, and sometimes in a way that's even beyond what they should have been able to, and they keep improving. I love that kind of story, and I love the type where you have protagonists who are even better than they know they are, kind of thing, but still require some good work to really get their peak. And so for me, that's one of the things that draws me to what the story they're telling has. And it's neat because in Season 2, they finally did some big things that are still happening. It's a reintroduction to the cast and what you knew and loved, and then very quickly ramps up to plot going through, and not all that great, but how they're working through it to then expand what the main characters are dealing with. And I've really appreciated that. So those are the main things I've been like watching and going through this past week as I've been doing geeky things on the side. Other than also continuing to binge anything that is singing talent on YouTube. Because I'm a sucker for that.
That's fun.
Yeah, America's Got Talent and all those kind of ones. I keep watching these people that are ridiculously talented going like, what? That's fun.
We should redefine what we mean by geek cred and what's dysfunctional deviations, because for me, I always leave TV show stuff, etc. for geek cred, whereas you do that during your dysfunctional.
I go back and forth.
I think we're both right. It depends on what our personal definitions are.
Well, because
you come to a standard, I think.
Some of the shows that I watch are much more, I believe, geeky and focused strictly on geek, where other ones are kind of like what I've seen as mainstream. Like right now, I feel like The Boys is mainstream. Where on the fence...
Yeah, but it's mainstream geek, I would argue.
Well, it's that geek has become a lot more mainstream, right? Where for me, the things that are still a little more niche are what I consider geek. When I get into my section of it, that's kind of where I do. And even to me, some of the gaming I still think is very geek. But yeah, and actually I'm totally up for what does the audience think. In fact, I think in one way, and we've talked about a little bit, Ken, how we structure things, maybe focused on like that reviews kind of thing versus which section it's specifically in. But anyhow, but on that note, I think we have a little bit of time that we get started for you with a little bit of...
I'm a geek. Are you a geek? Geek cred, level up!
And so you can roll right into what you see as your geek this week.
Yeah, I've actually got stuff to share here. A few things. In fact, quite a few things I could discuss here. So first of all, I wanted to briefly mention this Android game that I picked up and I was enjoying, but I had to uninstall for a rather strange reason, which is really unusual for me. And because it was testing my willpower, and I knew I was going to fail.
Oh.
So it was this roguelike Android game called Path of Adventure. It's a free-to-play game, but you can pay for resurrections in the game.
Okay.
But you don't have to. You can also pay to unlock chapters, but you don't have to. If you just play to completion and you do perfect scores, you can unlock as you go. And that's usually something I don't mind. I'm like, well, you know what? That's like a linear game style. The fact that there's also a paywall there, that I don't care about the chapter side of things. That really doesn't affect me. The resurrect thing, I didn't think it would affect me until it did.
Gotcha.
Or until it almost did, and I just said to myself, I would rather uninstall and stop playing this game I'm enjoying than spend money when I don't believe in the ethics of this. So basically, I really love choose your own story adventure games, where usually they're Android or iPhone based, and you download this app, and preferably there's some sort of random element to it, but generally speaking, there's a storyline that you kind of follow, and you make decisions based on your personal preference, or you're trying to follow a specific structure to the story, or ethics, or your own game style. So, for example, you might want to really specialize in sorcery as opposed to fighting or something. So in this game, each chapter has a different class. So you originally start off, I think, as a rogue, is the very first one. You're playing as a rogue. And the main difference is that you start off with a ring of healing, and it means every turn, which is every page, every decision you make, you gain 1 health back, which is quite useful and very overly powerful in my opinion anyway. So throughout it, exactly what happens each time you go down the path, which is the storyline, the path, you have options to make certain decisions about, whether you want to enter this hut, do you want to break down the door, do you want to use this key that you found, or do you want to smash it open? And if you smash it open, you'll take weapon durability, and there's lots of ifs and buts, and there's ups and downs of each decision you make, which I really like. I really enjoyed that. The part that got to me was I must have done 15 to 20 playthroughs on this first chapter, and I was really enjoying it. And I finally managed to get past this threshold of, I think it was level 35 out of 50, or page 35, or decision 35 out of 50.
Okay.
And I had some really good items that I hadn't gotten before, and I was really proud that I had this nice collection. Not only did I have some powerful spells, but I also had some really nice weaponry and a nice shield, and I had a lot of healing stuff on me, and I was like, I'm just going to face roll this. This is going to be easy. And I got to the very last decision, and I died due to a stupid decision that I made. I hit the wrong thing. My fat thumb as I leaned over to
so
press
it
the
wasn't
button,
even
pressed
that
the wrong one.
You didn't make a poor decision. You hit the wrong button.
And it felt unjust and unfair to me. I was like, I did not deserve to lose. There should be an undo button here. And I looked at the screen, and it popped up and said, you can resurrect for 69 pence. Or you can restart the game. And I was like, the fact that I want to hit resurrect, I don't want to be emotionally manipulated by a game into giving them money. If I enjoy for the sake of the enjoyment of the game, I'll give them money. Like if the first chapter was free and then the rest were paid, maybe £2-3 for the whole game or something, I would do that because I loved the game and I really enjoyed it, and I would happily do that. But this guilting of, oh, you got really close to the end there. Do you want to resurrect? We'll let you resurrect. I can't agree to that. That is emotional manipulation, and I will not play that game, even though I enjoyed it. Feel free to check it yourself. I'm not gonna. That's just a personal ism of mine. That's my own personal ethics. If you're interested in roguelike Android games, Path of Adventure is genuinely a very enjoyable one. If you don't have the stipulations that I had. So we played a little bit of Brawlhalla last week. Straight after the show, we all installed it, and we played a little bit of Brawlhalla. I think we managed to get 6-7 people online, which was great, actually. And we had a lot of fun. It's a stupid little game that's free to play, and it's from the Adventure Time creators. It's kind of in that universe, I guess.
It has some mixes in with some of those character stuff. When you go to the store page on Steam, you'll see Finn and I forget the dog's name. You'll see them both, Joe, I think, or whatever. You'll see them both in the world and kind of advertising with it. I don't know if they're actually playable in the game or not, but essentially it is Super Smash Brothers for free on PC.
Yeah. And it's free as long as you're okay with kind of League of Legends way of
progression.
You don't own any characters. You have to unlock them, and you only unlock them. I think it's only with money, though. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I know you can earn credit or gold in the game because I believe I have enough to unlock a character or a skin or something, but I'm not entirely sure. And so I haven't really focused it, but yes, I know you do have the ability to unlock things in it.
So this is clearly quite a big game, though, because they actually just released on Thursday that you can now play as WWE superstars in Brawlhalla in the current patch.
Oh, really?
Due to the big games that are going on the next week with WWE, which actually my buddy Graham's in Canada seeing today, actually. Oh, by the way, as a dysfunctional deviation, I guess I probably should have thought of this. He messaged me while he was in Canada, and he sent me this little video of I didn't know who it was. He had to explain. It was the big main wrestler that's in the event today, whatever the event is.
Sure.
I know nothing about wrestling, right? There is a big wrestling match today, and there's a couple of big superstars in it. And he was going to this like meat market with him and his girlfriend, him and his fiance, sorry. And they bumped into this guy, and they were like, "Wait, that's him. That's the lead main WWE guy. He's like a billionaire. Like, this guy's super huge." And they were walking nearby, and they noticed that Graham was wearing this T-shirt that was his opponent. So it was this big dude's opponent's T-shirt he was wearing. So the guy was like, "Oi, you!" And he went. They berated him, and it was like in a funny way, right?
Yeah, in that wrestler kind of Yeah.
Turns out there was cameras nearby. They were filming the whole thing. So they're there, and while the guy was berating Graham, he dropped his hot dog.
No.
And he dropped on the ground. And he's like, "You made me drop my meat." And he picks up. He's like, "Oh, you have it then." And he gives it to Graham. And like 5 minutes later, Graham was like, "Well, half of it didn't touch the ground, so he eats like half of it." He's got a picture of him eating half of this superstar wrestler's meat.
oh gosh, for Graham that has to be more than a highlight. That's one of those random experiences that makes your that's awesome. That is so awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It's such a good story.
That's great to hear. Go Graham. That's awesome.
But anyway, so that's The Rock, Becky Lynch, Xavier Woods, and John Cena have joined Brawlhalla as playable characters.
Interesting.
So you can check all those out in the game as well. They're undoubtedly going to cost money, right? But
I'm sure. But at the same time, unlocked or whatever, I'm sure there's a pack you can buy, right? Like any of these good games.
I just enjoy. I don't mind this kind of thing, right? Because that's endorsement, and I like the sort of cross-pollination of audiences. Is quite fun, and it means that wrestling fans will come into the game, and Brawlhalla fans might go to wrestling. That's kind of fun. Who doesn't enjoy all that kind of stuff? If you're a Brawlhalla fan and a wrestling fan, and this happens, this would make your day. This would make you so happy. And we don't care. We're just like, well, we're not going to do it. I'm not going to spend money on that.
Yeah, it's another character to play, right? Why not?
Yeah, right.
Well, it's like
I'm never going to be upset with that kind of thing, because that's always going to be something that's just extra content for those who care, and those who don't care don't have to pay for it. So
come on,
cares?
In sports ball, right? When they brought Carball, when they brought Rocket League, all the different themed cars in, from Batmobile and the classic Time Machine from Back to the Future and all those kind of things into the game. I was like, this is just cool. Who wouldn't want that? That's awesome. So yeah, same kind of thing. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me. Some skins, a couple different characters like that. Awesome. Totally cool. So neat.
Absolutely. So as well as Brawlhalla, I installed and started playing. I had a itching a little while ago, and I decided to finally scratch the itch to play some tower defense stuff.
Oh, I love tower defense games.
Oh, me too. And this is one that I played. I looked at the hours. I had 23 hours logged in it before, and I had effectively completed it. Not in every difficulty, but the main stuff. And it's a game called Tower Wars, and it's on Steam. Let me see. I've talked about this years ago. This is not a new thing. Let me find how much it is on Steam. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. It has a really interesting bunch of mechanics in it. It feels quite polished for a Tower Wars type game, which usually is like a map on another game. It's only £5. It's £5.50.
$8 US.
Yeah, it's super cheap. It's currently mostly positive reviews, and it came out in 2012, so it's a fairly old game now, 7 years old. But it was really enjoyable. I love the graphics in it. there's a couple of things that annoyed me a little bit about it. For example, you can't restart a level. You have to go back to the main menu, then go through all the sub menus to get back to restart.
Oh, okay.
And I suppose that's more of a intentional thing to prevent you from, rage restarting over and over to get the ideal start, which is probably why it annoyed me, because I like doing that. But it's really fun. It's not just got the mechanics of waves are sent at you to your base and you must defend it with towers. It's also got the mazing element from Warcraft 3 tower defense maps, which I always thoroughly enjoy. That's particularly good. Within a subset, it does restrict. There are like overall hard constraints of where your towers can go.
Gotcha.
In this hexagonal sort of fashion, and even those tiles are kind of restricted as well. If you do try to block the way, it won't let you. So there's a pathing mechanism to not let you do that. There's a couple of things that are there to try and stop you screwing with the mechanics. So, for example, if a bunch of enemies are heading down your wiggly path to get to your castle, right, through the maze of towers.
Yes.
If you try to sell a tower, which okay,
if you open up a new path behind them and then close the path in front of them to hopefully make them have to run the gambit again.
Yeah, to make them run back and forward. You can only sell one tower once a minute. You can build up a bank of 9 of those, though, or so.
Okay.
So you can do it somewhat, but the problem is if you do that, they will turn around and run towards that new path. But if you build in in their path again, they will get an invulnerable shield for about 30 seconds.
Ooh.
Which is a huge you're like,
yeah,
oh,
that'd
crap,
be terrible.
Yeah. But one of the really cool functions of this game is that the classic, they call it the classic mode, is just you defending. But there's also an opponent mode, which is also multiplayer, if you so please, where you can send minions at each other, and there's like a RPG system of how you upgrade your minions and stuff, whether you're going to unlock new minions or upgrade your current ones with speed or armor or shields. It's really a neat game. It's only 1v1 maximum, though, which is kind of a shame.
Well, no. I'm looking in the notes of it, and apparently it has modes of 2v2 and 3v3 as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, you're right. Okay, I'll take that back. It is a really, really fantastically fun game.
Yeah, I run into very few tower defense games that have multiplayer modes, because normally that's my sit back and just relax on my own kind of thing, and so seeing that it does is even more of an interest to me.
It's really, really thoroughly enjoyable. The thing that annoys me is that the campaign is a bit lackluster. There's only 3 levels. However, and it's each level, I think the first one is 24 minutes is my best that I got on it. So it's how long you can survive up until the end wave. So your best score is either the wave number or it's a time. And I think my best time for the first level is 24 minutes. The second one is like 55 minutes. And the third level is 65 minutes. So it does get steadily more difficult. And while those levels are very long levels, that like 65 minutes is a long time for a single level in the game, I think. Since it does feel continuous and I don't think you can save or anything. I do feel like since that's all there really is to the game, plus the additional side modes, it feels a bit lackluster. I feel like there should be dozens more of these maps, more of these levels. There is a Steam Workshop, so you can download additional ones, but they're not nearly as polished. The graphics look kind of poor in most of them. And it's a bit lackluster. There's just not a big community, and it's kind of an old game now. So, but it's $8. Check it out if you're interested in tower defense games, because it is a good game. It is good fun. And I originally had played 20 hours. This week I played 7 hours worth because it's good.
Nice.
And it's called Tower Wars on Steam. I picked up Spider-Man actually a week and a half ago. I just didn't have a chance to talk about it last week. For PlayStation 4.
Yeah, I've heard that's a very good game.
It's beautiful.
Okay.
It's graphically not in the sense of like the 4K resolution. It's really slick. The way the lighting works is really nice, and the feel that you get of the movement effects, the motion effects when you're flying and slinging your webs from street to street, you kind of feel like Spider-Man, right? That's pretty neat.
That's cool.
So I've spent about 4 hours in this game in the past 2 weeks, and I spent, I'd say, 3.5 hours of that time
just swinging about.
I don't know, like 80. Yeah, just doing all the collect stuff around the city objectives, like all the collect the backpacks around the city and unlock these towers or whatever. I just did that for like 3 hours because I was like, this is fun, this is cool. But the actual combat, there's a fair bit of maneuverability which makes sense because Spider-Man's not, he is fairly
he's
strong,
agile,
but he's not.
but yeah.
He's agile first and foremost. He's a dodger. He'll dodge attacks and he webs folk up and he jumps back and forth and avoids attacks. Right. He's not too aggressive. However, I don't know. Maybe it's just the playstyle doesn't agree with me, but I feel like it's very beat 'em up plus dodge. That's pretty much how the combat feels to me.
Okay.
And it's dull. Not that it's easy. Like I'm not necessarily good at either. I'm not trying to say that I'm finding it too easy and I'm bored. I'm saying that it's dull. There is a separation. Complexity and difficulty does not mean that it's going to be fun either, right? And it's not particularly difficult either. It's just that it's largely based on your ability to maneuver around with using the two analog joysticks on the PlayStation remote to jump back and forth to do a proper battle and having quick reactions to somebody about to shoot you or somebody about to punch you.
Okay.
That's most of the combat. The rest of it is kind of beat 'em up, just punch. Unless you're against a specific type of enemy, like unless you're against a sort of tanky kind of enemy, then you need to throw stuff at them. And that's kind of it. I got kind of excited a little bit later on in the game. I did a couple of the mission stories and you unlocked additional suit mechanics, which is kind of RPG element type stuff where you can level up certain things. So you can become really good at webbing up or like different kinds of combat. And I was like, oh, this is going to add a lot to the game. But the available tiers and the things that are available tend to mostly be percentage based. Oh, you do 2% extra damage in this thing. Or some of them do seem to like they sound. Well, the only thing is a lot of them are not activatable at the same time, like the suit mechanics. So you can't, gotcha. For example, you'll unlock something interesting and cool with this suit, but that's literally the only power you have to wear that suit, and you can only change the power by changing the suit entirely outside of a mission. So it's like a single. It's kind of like a thumb in Skyrim. It's like a single special ability that you get per suit unlock, whereas the actual RPG elements for leveling up tend to be percentage based, and that sucks. I honestly I find the whole thing kind of dull that way. You know what? It was on offer. It was down to about £45 or something, but that's still a lot of money for a game, and I feel pretty bad about it. Like I heard nothing but good things about this game, and I was kind of like, man, I wish I could get a refund on this because it's not for me. Because I've spent so much, I'm gonna play the crap of it.
Well,
I'm gonna play all of it, even if I hate it.
Well,
hopefully, I'm gonna play it.
Hopefully, it'll expand and open up as you progress, and it'll give you something that makes it more feel your way. That I will hope, because I've heard good things about it, and people enjoying it, mostly because they've said things like that of it. Of all the games that have come out, this one makes you feel more like Spider-Man than probably anything previous. That's kind of how I heard a lot of people describe it.
I mean, I did really enjoy previous Spider-Man games like years ago, PlayStation 2, I think, where they came out with the movie. I loved that game. That was awesome. I played a lot of that game, actually. But we'll see. Maybe it's just I've only played a couple hours of it after all. Maybe I'll play a bit more and I'll find that I love it and the combat opens up and maybe I'll click, how the maneuverability in the game works or something, and then I'll play a lot more. But I'll keep you updated with that. But cool. I'm not going to be playing that for the next little while. It is my backup game at the moment because I've mostly been playing Witcher 3.
Oh, really? Now,
so Witcher 3.
I'm curious because I've only ever put maybe an hour into Witcher 3. I own it. It's beautiful, but it's not one I've sat down and played much of.
So yeah, I started doing this. Actually, my plan was I was going to play Spider-Man. I got Spider-Man. I was like, you know what? I've finished my thesis. That's my gift to myself. I'm gonna play Spider-Man. And I started playing it. And as I was playing it, that lack of the RPG element stuff, the proper RPG stuff, made me want to play a real RPG. It started like I had this itch that was not being scratched, and it's like I applied a lotion to it that I thought would make it less itchy, but it made it more itchy. So I was like, I gotta do something. So I was like, Witcher 3! And it scratched the itch. It is a great game. So now that I put a lot of hours into this game in the past 2 weeks. Like, I've really enjoyed it. It's really fun. But there are. Let me start with the downsides because there's not many. There's just a couple. I've encountered. all the problems I've encountered in this game have been related to movement of the character. So when you're on a horse or when you're swimming in particular, you can pretty much play the game without either of those elements if you avoid some side quests and you don't mind some running here and there. So it doesn't majorly affect the game in any which way. And I still do the side quests because I want to try and be a bit of a completionist with this game because I'm really enjoying it. But I find myself getting really irritated when I'm doing anything that relates to swimming. So, for example, okay, there's a box here, and your character is swimming down and then along to this box. Then you need to click X. That's the quest. That's the whole quest. It's a side quest. It's just a find the treasure. Yep, that's it.
Just pick up the
somewhere,
treasure.
Go find it. You see something floating in the ocean. You swim towards it. You dive. You click X. Should be super simple. So you dive, and you dive too low. And you're like, okay, I press X, I'm close enough. Nope, doesn't let you. All right, I turn the camera. Nope, doesn't let you. Okay, I'll go up, and then you go sort of like into the chest instead. You're like, no, that's not what I wanted. So you go to the side, and then you go up, and then you try to turn, and instead you move in the wrong direction. Now you're above it. And you're like, for God's sakes, I'm trying to just click on this freaking box. Why can't I do this? You click X again, it fails. You're running out of breath, so you go back up to the surface, you wait 5 seconds, you go back down, and then you spend like
Rinse,
3 minutes trying to click X on a box. And you finally get it, but you're like, and then you get like, I don't know, some mediocre item worth 7 copper, and you're like,
why?
All right,
Yeah.
why? Well, waste of my time. I mean, you still feel good because you're doing the completionist aspect, and in the end, most of the game, like 98% of the game, is not like this.
Gotcha.
But it's just a little irritating when you're trying to maneuver around to pick up loot off mobs. When you want to click on boxes or any items. One time it majorly screwed me over. I was in a city. I ran towards somebody, and the problem is when you're sprinting and you try to stop, you can't really. It's really quite difficult to judge where you're going to stop because it kind of depends on the terrain and if there's people and if there's collision. Okay. It seems like it's kind of unpredictable where you're going to stop. So I tried to stop in front of this guy. I was sprinting towards him and then stopping suddenly. I clicked X. And it clicked on the box behind him. The city guard was like, "Oh, you're thieving!" And then I'm like level 8. They're level 25. In this game, 1 or 2 levels is a big thing.
Yeah.
Like if they're level 10, they'll probably kill you. So I was like, I ended up running for like 15 minutes just because I clicked X on the wrong bloody thing. Okay, that's the bad things of The Witcher. That's
okay.
It. Right? Okay. Visuals, beautiful. It is a gorgeous game. You might find that some of the scenery seems a bit dreary at the start, but it's because it is. You're in squalor, you're in sad villages. It's supposed to be depressing. You're a witcher. Your job is to go kill monsters that are killing the poor. That's pretty much your whole job. So you go into these, but as the story progresses, you go into different places, different areas, different themes of land. I guess, like you get deserts, you get aquatic areas, you get swamps, you get hills, you get various things, and it does get more interesting. The other thing is time is very important in this game. You don't realize it at all for a long time, but ironically, but the weather, for example, it appears randomly. How the weather works, it's either it can be rainy, it can be stormy, it can be windy, it can be super sunny, and that's somewhat dependent on the area that you're in as well. But that also affects things like how the sunrise looks. And oh my god, you don't really notice until you're running around doing some quest, and it's middle of the night, and then suddenly it starts getting brighter, and you're still running. You turn a corner, and you see that the sky is this beautiful auburn red with orange and yellow, and then the main character Geralt says, "Oh, it's getting warmer," and you gives a feeling of like, oh, it is. It does feel like it's getting warmer, and it just looks gorgeous. The elements of the textures and the graphics on the grasses and stuff, it's really nice. Character models look great. There are lots of naked men and women in the game. Not fully naked men. I've only seen fully naked women in it, which I didn't think was possible on PlayStation. By the way, I was kind of shocked when I saw that. I was like, is this? They allowed this in the game? Like, I'm kind of shocked that Sony let that happen. I thought that was like a PC only type thing. But yeah, there's fully nude characters in it, which is a bit strange. Now you might be like, oh, that's exciting. There's lots of beautiful women. There are some. Like Geralt has a kind of a theme of repeatedly sleeping with beautiful sorceresses. But most of the naked people you see are monsters. So you'll see like these like horrific like old hags who are like these undead, fleshy, like large monsters who like look like they smell. and they're just saggy everywhere. Let's just say, like they're drooping out their arms, their chest, their legs, their face, their jaws, like down here, rah, and they're fully nude. So you're like, man, I want to kill you, but I don't want to touch you. So anyway, I digress. The quests are really interesting. The vast majority of them are fully dialogued. Like there's so much spoken stuff throughout. The lore in the game is insane. Better than the books. The books are pretty mediocre. I've read them last year. I didn't particularly enjoy them. I thought they were interesting, and I kind of liked the idea of it. I think that the fact that this is in a game that you can fully explore is way better than this modicum of insight you get in the books.
Interesting.
Which is quite. Yeah, the books were not well written, I don't think.
Well, no, I'm curious about that because I talked about coming back from San Diego Comic-Con, but one of the big things advertised there was the new Witcher series coming to Netflix that is being based more on the books and less off the game.
Yeah.
And how people are kind of interested to see how that plays out. So
that's not necessarily a bad thing because the idea. Okay, it's like the book said. Here's some general ideas that are really cool. We're not going to delve into them. We're going to kind of gloss over them, and it's going to feel like I've introduced lots of potential ideas. It feels like it's like a bunch of short stories. That's what the whole thing feels like. It's a bunch of short stories for cool ideas that could then delve into other stuff. And that's what the Witcher games delivered. Was like, here's all the detail that you really want out of this.
Gotcha.
This
they
world.
set the scene in the world, but now you get to actually explore it.
So I'm hoping that the Witcher TV series is going to be the same thing, but from a different perspective. Here's this new world that we were exploring that's based on the books, but here's our interpretation, and I'm excited for that.
Nice.
So the game is beautiful. It's fantastic, really enjoyable. The RPG elements are interesting. I wish I understood some of it a bit more beforehand. So, for example, you have alchemy in the game, and unlike other games where you have alchemy, where say you brew a potion, you would drink that potion and it'd be gone. In this game, you brew a potion, you've unlocked the potion now, and whenever you meditate, it restores, so long as you have some alcohol on you. You use that to restore it somehow. But it means you only have to unlock everything once.
Okay.
So I found myself, when I kill monsters, I'd pick up the pieces behind them wherever they drop their loot repeatedly because I thought I would be having to repeatedly restore, their health or whatever, health potions or something later on because I knew there was alchemy. But it turns out if I have 87 drowner brains, I may only need 4 in total for every alchemy recipe in total. So having another 80 is useless unless I want to sell them. So, the game actually kind of expects you to do a little bit of background research. I actually have some notes written on my phone of the alchemical ingredients that I still need for the potions I've yet to unlock and the oils I've yet to unlock.
So that you'll hold those and get rid of everything else.
Exactly, yeah. There's a lot of the game that also has some sort of... It doesn't force you to learn, but it expects you to at least look up stuff repeatedly. So, for example, if you run to an area where there's a new monster that you've not seen before, or a monster you've only read about, you might go and check your bestiary, which looks through your notes that you've taken so far. If you've never encountered the monster, you don't know what to do.
Gotcha.
Like, you have to work it out yourself. But if you've done it before, or if you've read about it, it might say, oh, they're particularly susceptible to this decoction and these oils that you can apply to your blades and these potions or whatever, or these magic signs that you use. And it's kind of neat. It's nice not having a game where it's just like run up, smash, square, and then step.
Hand feeding all of it to you.
Yeah, I really like the combat system. It feels very fluid. It requires some knowledge of what you're attacking and or some kind of estimation. So if you look at something, you're like, it looks kind of undead, I'm going to try to apply the necrophage oil to my silver blade, which I'll use. I tried that bomb, it stunned it. I tried that spell, oh, that made it fall over. Now I cut... Like, sometimes you use this one spell that's like a knockback. On some people, it staggers them for like half a second. It's a complete waste. Other people, or the monsters, they'll fall down, and you can just instant kill them by stabbing them in the heart. Okay. And it's trial and error. It's really cool. I really love this with the game. Some fights are like incredibly hard until you realize there's something you need to use or some different technique you need to do or a combination of stuff. It's not so complex that it puts me off, but it's not so easy that it's dull. I feel like Witcher 3 is a really nice level of combat. I could talk about this for hours. I'm not going to. All I want to say is Triss Merigold is the best girl. I think if you get any choices in the game, I'm going to choose Triss. She's the redhead character, of course. And Yeah, really. Oh, there's also a lot of ethical dilemmas in the game, which no matter which choice you make, you can kind of make an ethical argument for.
Gotcha. They're all a little bit
Like,
gray.
yeah, you found this guy stealing, or this guy has been stolen from. He's asked you to go hunt down the thief, but it turns out that he screwed over the thief in the first place. So it's like, oh, they both did wrong. Do I kill them or do I not? Either which way, I'm in the wrong or I'm in the right, right? I mean, I tend to just kill everything that I can personally, because I'm like, well, somebody did something wrong, and I'm going to get my money. I'm going to get paid.
Ha!
So yeah, Witcher 3 is a fantastic. Yeah, thanks for adding the notes of so much hanging flesh. I really appreciate that, Wayne. What the hell? I have two more things to add before I finish. Get off my wagon here. Ken and I made honey bread this weekend. So we got the World of Warcraft cookbook at Christmas. And we've been slowly working our way through it. And one of the things we said we do in our date nights is it's a nice cheap date night, right? You just buy some ingredients for baking or whatever, and you make some food and you have a couple drinks, and you have some really. There's nothing better than having some good food and good company and good drink, right? That makes a perfect. So that's what we've been doing. Friday night we made this. So basically, you just make bread, but it's got a crap ton of honey in it. And then you sort of make it into 4 separate dough sections. So you split into quarters. You then roll those out into long, like 3 foot or so ropes of dough, and then you get like an upside down bowl. You butter it, and then you wrap the rope around it repeatedly, all 4 bits, until it looks like a beehive, and then you cook it like that, or you bake it like that. And we've done it twice now because I enjoyed it so much on Friday that I got up early this morning and made it again. And it was nice. Better this morning because I got egg yolk and I did the outside with egg yolk, so it came out beautifully. And it was really tasty. It's not too sweet. Like you use like half a cup of honey in it, which is a lot of honey. And it's not too sweet, but you can tell it's like just not savory, just slightly sweet. But it's definitely a type of bread. It really does. But you can just sit and eat by itself. It's really delicious. And when it's straight out of the oven, put a little bit of honey over the top of it. Oh, so good. And it's fairly easy to make. Like the winding around the bowl is probably the hardest part. The rest of it's just like mixing dough. It's easy enough. But the World of Warcraft cookbook, so far, everything I've done out of that has been so much fun and really enjoyable. Really, really, either not too hard to make, but makes you feel kind of good about yourself. Because the bread I've made in the past has been kind of basic. That felt like a kind of like expert level thing. Like it looked like a hive, you know. It was cool, right? It had structure to it. I've never done that in baking before. So that was really enjoyable. And the very last thing is I've not played any Pathfinder, but I really want to, and I've been watching. I've now found a YouTube series. I mentioned that I wanted to learn more about it before I started playing last week.
Okay.
I've now found a series that I'm now watching, which is going to teach me the basics and more of Pathfinder. So I know a little bit because I have played it myself before with some other people, but I haven't actually ever DM'd before. But this is what I want to try and learn how to do, is how to know the game well enough that I could DM and lead others in the game. So that's not just a working level of going with it, but I want to be able to actually lead it as well. So the channel I'm using is one called Dawnforged Cast. As Dawnforged Cast. These guys are actually really nice. They've got 164k subscribers, so nothing crazy. But they've got loads of videos for various different types of games that they play. If you look at their playlist section, they give you different voices and accents for D&D, gaming for new players, the beginner's table, different editions of Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder and how to play each, encounter design tips, better role-playing tips, new DM tips, all different playlists with like either some of them have dozens of videos of telling you how to do it. The Pathfinder one I'm paying attention to now. Let me try and find it. The Pathfinder Basics How to Play. It has 67 videos, each about 20 minutes long. Like at the end of this, I should be able to do this, right? And I'm watching it passively as I eat lunch or when I watch dinner or have dinner or whatever. And it's been really good. It starts off quite it's just a couple of guys. It's a guy and a girl with a camera, like they're passing it back and forth, and they're quite new to this whole thing.
Okay.
But judging by how many likes and how many views it has, not only is it very useful, but I'm guessing they improve over time, considering how many subscribers they now have, right? So check them out if you're interested in playing Pathfinder at any point. It's Dawn Forged Cast, one word, Dawn Forged Cast. I'm really quite impressed by them, and I'll hopefully be following that through over the next few months until I can get to that point I'm ready to actually do. That's enough of what I was to say. Do you want to have a break, sir? Or do you want to?
I think I'll throw a quick break in there. I've got a short song queued up that is going to play into a little bit of my geek cred. I'm not going to spend much time on mine because there are a couple articles I want to get to in the Geekoscope today. So real quick, we're going to take about a 3-minute break here. So one, I can refresh a drink. People can run and use bio breaks as necessary and such, and we will be right back after this. So with that, you're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com. And we'll be back right after this short break.
Send in your emails to showx@vtwproductions.com. You're listening to Show X on VTWProductions.com.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the show. As Ken comes back to get himself settled, wanted to do a thing back in Geek Cred real quick, which is that of an email we got in. And so let's go ahead and kick off with an email. That's all right, Ken. I had you muted finally after the break here so that nobody heard you running through the doors here, but they heard you leave because I forgot to do it earlier.
I was shouting, I'm here!
Yeah, no, got you there.
Ken asked me to get her some more honey bread, so I was grabbing some. I microwaved it quickly for her because I wanted it to be warm.
You talk about some honey bread, and I was going to ask if it increases your stamina. No, that's good. So, all right, we do have an email coming in about Geek Cred this week that I'll get to real quick. This coming to us from our good friend Agris SW. Says, greeting good sirs of the variable letter. AgriSSW here again to share some geek cred. Oh, weird. Your display decided to joke and come back. It made you small. Let's see. That it fixed itself.
Well, that's just unrealistic, isn't it?
It dropped and then came back. It's weird. It bounced. Says, yesterday, Ambrosia and I went out on an adventure and checked out a summer festival in downtown Little Tokyo. This was our first time in Little Tokyo, and we were amazed by all the local shops and had a great time. We even found a few things for us to buy. In other geeky news, I
love Chinatowns and Oriental shops
anything
in general.
that is just legitimately there.
Yeah, like one of my favorite experiences of going to Dublin, weirdly enough, was when we went to the Chinese market, because we just don't have these here. We have like a single Chinese shop here and there, but this was like a full like little section of town that was kind of like a Chinatown, right? Just dedicated to it, and they're just giving out so much free food, and it was all this interesting stuff, and we didn't understand anything. We had no idea what we're eating. It was just great. It was like, this is tasty. I don't know what it is. Even though we're pescatarian, we just assumed it was all vegetarian because you don't want to be that pain in the butt, you know.
Of course it was. Good for you. Well, of course because it's not a health issue specifically, a choice. So it's okay to splurge on occasion. Let's see. Let's see. It's first time there, and we're amazed by all the local shops and had a great time. We even found a few things to buy. In other geeky news, I've been playing the heck out of one of the games I got in last month's Humble Bundle. Surviving Mars. It's a super fun and worth every cent. Lastly, in other things geeky, I'm loving some new anime that was recommended to me by Copperfield. Quote, how heavy are the dumbbells you lift? And do you love your mom and her 2-hit multi-target attacks? Admittedly, those are not anime I'm aware of. I've never heard of those two. I'll have to take a look. Says, I highly recommend both to anyone. Have you ever watched either anime, Mr. Wayne? Nope, have not. That's all I have for now, good sirs. Thanks again for the awesome show. Keep up the good work. Shout out to Ambrosia, Hartnett, and Copperfield. That from AgriSSW level 120, human paladin on the Guild Silverwings, Moonguard US. The paladin
I love the picture.
Husband of Ambrosia Hartnett. And the nice thing is I did get this set up so I can share this to everybody real quick so that you guys can see the two of them in their garb from what they purchased while out in Little Tokyo Town. So very cool. Sounds like a fun adventure, and I do love celebrating so many of the cultural things that come out of Japan. So I can appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. Awesome. All right. So briefly, so that I can get into the news I wanted to talk about, all I was going to bring up, I may save some of my geek cred for another time, but I've been doing some costume making and things as I'm trying to prep for Dragon Con. Hopefully I can provide some video and pictures of that coming up, as well as doing some more 3D printing. I do have I have a gift I printed out. I'm trying to do another, I don't know if I'll call it commission yet. I haven't discussed price for a friend of mine about some things. Game-wise, been playing a little bit of League of Legends, ARAMs, and the other mode, the Team Tactics mode that they have. And the other one I've been playing a little bit more since I had to rebuild my computer forcibly. It actually got a few things sorted and working better. And so I've been playing my Battletech game again, the top-down squad-based Battletech that I kickstarted way back when. Really good game, and I'm happy to be able to jump into it again. More recently, and for those of you who have been watching the stream and have seen some extra things kick in there, as I have been taking the advice of our Twitch experts out there, our Tom Bad Guys, Handos, and Copies of the world, to try to help maybe make this channel an affiliate channel for the first time on Twitch, and thus having to stream a few more days per month. I have made the decision to start streaming some of my adventures in Legend of Zelda games through our Show X stream, where normally I would have put them on my Doc Dead channel, but I've been putting them into our Show X stream, so hopefully you guys are enjoying that. But yes, you can watch me as I've been playing a little bit of Wind Waker, which I find to be super pretty game. I was telling Tom Bad Guy on the stream yesterday that coming out of especially Majora's Mask, which was not a game that I enjoyed playing as much. I felt the play for completionists, or to at least have experienced it. And it's dark, and the way the time mechanic works, it's just weird to feel progression in that game. Coming out of, before that, Ocarina of Time, which I think a lot of people highlight as one of their first Zelda experiences. They're kind of what formed their opinion of the Zelda series. Those who didn't go back to the old Nintendo or the Super Nintendo to play some of the original Zelda games out there. And playing through Ocarina is really good. Majora's Mask was a bit of a slog. Going into Wind Waker, even from the get-go of me starting to play it, just put a smile on my face. It's so pretty, and the way it's cartoony and bright has made it fun. And for me, even though, and I was actually feeling some of the discussions you said about the challenges of like control mechanics in a game when you talk about Witcher.
Yeah.
I have those challenges at any platformer, it seems, and I had 2 experiences on Wind Waker. One, having to throw a bomb at just the right angle to get into a little pot. That took me far longer than it should have, because it was just about a precision thing, and fighting the camera angle and hitting the button at the right time, and that kind of thing was...
That's the thing, dude. Consoles are not made for precision or specific timing with precision, right? It's just not. They're made for button bashing and screwing around.
Yes.
Yeah,
so there's a little bit of frustration with that, as well as, like you said, getting the camera just on the right angle so you can hit the button that you need to, kind of thing. There's little bits of that I've run into where I was falling off of a thing multiple times because I hit... I keep messing up the controller mapping because I'm running it through emulation. And so what I look at my Xbox controller does not match what the key on the screen says I should do. So I have to keep telling myself, no, look at the direction that button is shown, not the color or the letter on it, because they are wrong. There's an old meme that's wonderful that says, the reason I have trust issues or something, or I have to think about when I do something, and it shows all the different controller layouts over time, ever since they started adding symbols or letters and such to the different controllers, and how every company does it differently. So it's like, press X in this game, and you look, you're like, which controller am I on? Kind of thing. And so I understand that better now. Anyhow, so those are a little bit of the geek I want to just make sure people are aware of. What I really wanted to get into, and some of this will touch a bit on politics, but it's relevant in the news today.
Oh, yes. Is this what referring to what I shared on the Show X Facebook?
We've had a few notes of this, and it's come from different angles. So, one of the big stories that came out, unfortunately, last week while we were doing the show and everything like that, there were again in the United States several shootings that occurred, which in its own level is tragic, and there's so many ways to talk about just the challenges of violence in general, let alone the tools that can be used for violence and how those affect things, right?
And we I think we, both you and I and all the audience, know that we could easily spend the next 5, 10,
we could have multiple shows just talking about
the ethics and how horrible this whole situation is, and how our hearts go out to all the families of those who are affected.
Yes.
But in the end, there are people doing that already who are more knowledgeable and different and specialists in different fields. We're going to be talking about a very specific piece of news that relates to this, right?
So
that it does fit the theme of our show.
Go figure, as soon as this came out, something that us as gamers and geeks have heard throughout the years, and yet somehow I was still surprised to hear it rear its ugly head yet again.
Yeah,
and so
me too.
Multiple reporting. The one I'm going to read off of here is the HollywoodReporter.com, but there's a lot of places you can catch this story. The headline especially saying, GOP House Minority Leader says video games could be blamed for El Paso and Dayton mass shootings. The quote that was given on Fox News saying, the idea that these video games that dehumanize individuals to have a game of shooting individuals and others, I've always felt that it's a problem for future generations and others. That coming from Kevin McCarthy.
Well, he's completely right. Him feeling something is absolutely the best that he can say about it, because there's no scientific evidence backing what he says.
Continuing, it says that he said, quote, we've watched from studies shown before what it does to individuals, and you look at these photos of how it took place, you can see the actions within video games and others. He continued on saying that he wanted to, quote, get all the facts, and quote,
well, clearly not.
But what I'd like to do is get all the facts. Are there indicators? There are times before that we have found this and have proven we can come together just like last Congress. Let's see, where else did it go into? Okay, then it continued in. He said, quote, how long are we going to ignore at the federal level, particularly where they can do something about the video game industry? In this manifesto that we believe is from the shooter, this manifesto where he talks about living out his super soldier fantasy of Call of Duty, we know the video game industry is bigger than the movie and music industry combined. He added, quote, why are we allowing young people or anyone to go to a website to learn and be killed and be praised to put this manifesto out? Why are we allowing 90% of our children, is the estimate, between ages 12 and 17, watching video games? Again, larger than the music industry and movie industry combined. All right.
What an absolute fool.
So that is just me wanting to make sure to get a quote out there about the words that came out this idiot's mouth. Because my challenge to this, and one of the biggest things out there, has been there have been multiple studies that have not been able to create any link between violence in video games and violent actions of people. And it is such a scapegoat argument and a misdirection to try to throw blame on the entertainment industry for how people interact in the normal world. And this is what pisses me off, because this has been debunked multiple times. But to reach out and to use this and the other big one they're throwing out there that I think has so many potential issues, depending on how you address it, that it was either the fault of the video game industry and or mental health issues, mental illness, for the reason that somebody committed mass shootings.
Well, I think that it generally is mental illness. I don't think.
But this is where I won't. There's another discussion to have on that piece, because one of the challenges on the surface that sounds like a reasonable argument that anybody who would kill others must be mentally ill. However, the challenge is if you apply a blanket argument that, and this is what they've basically been saying on the more conservative side, putting up, or actually on both sides they've argued this, called red flag laws, that anyone that has shown anything related to mental illness would no longer be able to acquire firearms. The problem with that is...
I don't agree with that. That's ridiculous.
But that's what they're trying to do as a way to now use that argument. Because now how do you define a mental illness? How do you find discussion of one? Who does it really disarm? Who does it really affect? Because they've shown that in the majority of killings that have happened around the United States in particular, but in general, none of the people had been diagnosed with any kind of mental illness. Not to say they didn't have any kind, but there was no record of or diagnosis of, and therefore no ability to have limited their access to the weapons they use to kill people. So that's why, again, I throw it as a red herring argument. It's something that is a misdirection as a way to get away from other potentially more effective ways of reducing access to weapons that allow quick and indiscriminate killing to occur, versus maybe trying to address the real issues, right? And so that's why I bring that up, is just it's something that on the surface I think a lot of people looked at and said, yeah, people who murder people are mentally ill. But the problem is the way it's being applied is blanket. And if you look at today's society, arguably most people could be diagnosed with some kind of mental illness, challenge, or health issue.
Absolutely. And the thing is that, okay, I know that this is delving into gun law and we should be careful here. The issue is that, okay, my opinion is pretty much this. I don't think guns are inherently going to cause people to murder everybody. I do think that removing all guns would prevent gun violence. Yes. It's
funny, as I agree with that point by itself, but at the same time, I will quickly argue I am not advocating disarming people.
Right. So I would argue that if we started populating the Antarctic, I would say let's have a no gun law, and then that would solve any future potential problems. Removing guns from a populace, especially one who is as entrenched in their beliefs and ideological beliefs as the US is with guns, it's not possible without further violence.
Yeah, or
and that's not really acceptable.
Yeah, you're really now having to do a choosing of who has access to what. So you're right, and that's not even what I want to talk about, because there's a whole level of discussion about what could possibly be done to address gun violence, violence in general, all these things, right? Totally cool. If people want to look at other ways to now fund better care of mental health issues, awesome. That's a good thing. But again, those are all, I think, kind of skirting the real issues. And this is very particular why I brought this up, was that specific discussion about trying to blame our entertainment industry for the actions of some sick, demented, or whatever you want to call people, violent people. And it's funny because this is one of those things that I think gamers as a whole have all come out in nearly the same voice saying y'all need to stop. But the problem, this is where it gets me a little bit more excited about, or not excited in a good way, but a little more emotional about, or however they gauge, is that not only did it come out as a talking point suddenly from this initial Republican representative, it got echoed by everyone else that is essentially trying to protect discussions about access to guns and how it could really be applied to everyone, that they continue to reiterate what is a proven falsehood and are not being called out on it nearly enough. Now, I will give credit. I watched, on a interview on Fox News, actually a gamer or slightly younger individual up there talk about the issue in a way that everyone agreed, yep, video games are not the problem, right? That these people who are spouting it are deflecting. And I just hope more people will call them out on it. And in a way, I've seen the funny haha reaction from memes and stuff like that on social media from gamers to the effect of redirecting to say, like, you're right. I'm trying to understand how games influence, because I've seen all you people playing Gran Turismo, and yet I don't know a single one of you that knows how to properly corner, right? Or, all the stuff that you would hopefully learn from games. Oh, I've seen you playing Cooking Mama for this long, and yet you still burn your toast or something. Things that are just, if only video games actually taught us more and influenced us more in life, right? What might actually happen. Or the other memes talking about how video games do all this, and yet they're playing, what is it, Stardew Valley or something. And it's like, yep, all those weeds or something are things I'm managing in my farm and things like that, and how violent that's made me. And so it's just, because we shouldn't allow people to just blanket throw something on it. And I think one of the problems is these decision makers, or these people who build the laws in the U.S., I think they're showing their age in a lot of ways to not understand how large gaming has become and how influential along the population base that gaming really is, to realize how stupid these comments were.
Yeah, because right now, maybe the next election, maybe the next two, they might resound with people. But give this 10 years, you're gonna be outnumbered massively in the voting spectrum, because most of the people who believe otherwise aren't going to care anymore. And to an extent. The
question is more whether or not the people who see this rhetoric and hear it, if they use that as a hot button issue as to what they'll vote with, if that's enough for them to look at a person and say, "Nah, you're an idiot, I'm not voting for you next time," or if it kind of goes into the background chaff of other things again, and they ignore away, or they willfully kind of look aside about how these people are supporting, and I go back to my earlier discussion beginning of the show, the money of big corporations for their own pocket lining that they get for politicians that are basically paid and bought by corporations, versus addressing real issues. And that's just, so it does agitate me significantly, and that it continued to be discussed, and I think still has been discussed by these large politicians, to the point where the president of the United States echoed these things, where of all the people in the world who I am challenged to see ever reading actual scientific article or doing any research themselves, that's where, again, I think it's very dangerous, is when you have essentially an echo chamber that goes to the top, and thus a call out to policy because of it. And the reaction of companies, where one of the locations down in Texas where it occurred was a Walmart, and since then, Walmart has chosen to, or basically told their staff to take down any violent video game displays, any advertising being used for things like Call of Duty or anything coming out. That
even though they still sell guns,
in a way, it's like one of the most.
They'll sell the guns, but they won't sell the freaking stand about COD.
Right.
Come on.
And there's some other very well thought out discussions about that piece about access, where, nope, we got to stop the kids and people from having access to the games that entertain them, but we'll still give them as much access to guns, kind of thing. It's just
so any other violent mediums, such as things like, for example, religious texts that advocate for violence.
Oh gosh, one of the better ones that came out was a discussion that said, when has ever what was they saying? When had ever something like Christian base or whatever thing used a book as the catalyst for violence? Like, some politician said that, and the next post under it was like, the Crusades, and just you really want to make that argument, do you now? Do you really want to make that argument?
That's one way to lose your argument.
just a level
very
of
quickly.
Total So yeah, how fair weather some people are on the knowledge they use. Anyhow, I wanted to bring that up because it is hot topic, it is current. Feel free to discuss more and email us what you think. But that was just something that when I read, I wanted to say I couldn't believe it.
That's the thing. Regardless of your conservatism or your liberalism, like in the end, I think we can all, as gamers, agree that this is some dumb crap going on. They're being ignorant, and it's objectively wrong, right?
Well, and I would say it's not even that they're being ignorant. I think they're actively putting out falsehood to misdirect from truth.
Yeah,
that's what bothers me.
Which is way worse. Yeah,
that's what pisses me off. So yeah,
that's fair.
So that was the big news story that it's relevant right now. I recommend if you hear people trying to use that scapegoat argument to educate them and let them know that there has never been any study that is truly unbiased study has never shown a thing. And they've tried to do some pretty specific ones and just ticks me off because it attacks us, right? It's directly at the stuff that we enjoy and how it could affect our access to things because of some ignorant people. Okay. Beyond that, and because time is showing out here closely, a call of knowledge to people out there in general, because we haven't really talked about it enough as a network, as Show X listeners and friends and VTW gaming friends. But another one out there, and this came out from PC Games. Let's see, PCGameSN.com. So PC Gamesin. But it says, here are all of the WoW Classic servers, and you can pre-register starting this week. So just a quick announcement that things are getting real for those people who want to play some World of Warcraft Classic. They've been doing, and thanks to Copy for reminding us, some of the stress tests recently to show that their servers will work. But just as a heads up of knowledge for you guys, there are, let's see, it says 13 realms that are going to be available for Classic. 11 in the Americas and 2 in Oceania. And in them, it says starting August 12th, so tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time, players with active subscriptions or game time on their WoW accounts will be able to start reserving character names for when WoW Classic launches officially on August 26th.
That's a good point, actually. That's a really simple way to get people to want to subscribe. I can get my character name!
Right? Well, we all know how it became a challenge back in the day, and because there's been some other articles around this talking about what Classic's doing, and a lot of the people that are starting to be excited for it, because one of them is people who want to relive the old days. They have another means they can do it too, is you can go to the forums, and there's now a tool out there to allow you to go try to find old character names and people that you used to talk to back in the forums. It's something like Forums 2004 to 2006. And in doing so, to try to recontact and connect with people that you might have used to play WoW with.
Oh, that's sweet.
As a way to come back together to play WoW Classic. And so they're doing things like that. But in the Americas, there's going to be, it looks like initially 4 normal servers and 5, or wait, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 5 PvP servers and 2 role-playing servers. And then that there'll be 2 Oceania servers as a whole. 1 PvP and 1 normal. So one of the questions I'll throw out there to the group, who all is looking to play WoW Classic at all? I know that I have an active subscription, so I will likely at least go jump into it to see and talk about what is WoW Classic and what's it looking like, how's it feeling, and where would we play then? My recommendation, because a lot of our groups are kind of cross-realm and cross the world, is maybe picking one of the 2 Eastern servers, and I would normally say normal mode, since the PvP servers, I'm not sure how those will play out. Back in Classic, I didn't used to play on PvP in Classic, but I'm open to people telling me what they would like to try.
What you need to do is roll Rogue, and then you win. That's pretty much how it works.
Part of the problem is I'm trying to decide if I want to do anything different, because I played Classic as a Rogue. It was my primary place where I played. And it was an undead Rogue, because there's 2 sides. Alliance or Horde, going to Classic, because Horde's better in Classic, right. You know it. And then whether we... who wants to play, who wants to team up? How do we do this? And so, thoughts. Right now, my recommendation, not that I am a decision maker in this, is to grab an Eastern server, either Mankrik or Paggle, as they are for normal servers in the Americas, one of the East Coast servers, and to roll Horde characters and to team up. And that would be my recommendation. And I'd be curious to see what people think. I'm happy to discuss this further in our emails, on the chat, or more likely in the Discord after the show and such, to see if people want to do, because we're coming up very quickly on when the actual Classic launch is going to happen. And I think it would be much more entertaining to have a group of a solid 5 or 6, if not more, that want to check things out at launch. So let me know what your thoughts are. But that's the big one there. I think all the other news I really have is discussing all the atrocities and bad things that government does. Oh, I do have one other good one. And I'll let you finish out if you have anything else, Ken. And that is that one you brought to my attention, Ken, although we haven't seen the full example of what it means and what it's going to turn into, is that Twitch is finally going to offer their own streaming software. And so, what does that mean? And so it'll be interesting to come out where right now, we don't know much about it, and I only have ever seen this one screenshot basically showing what it might look like. But in order to get past what you currently have for multiple streaming options, everything from NVIDIA's built-in streaming service that they have to OBS, which is likely the biggest thing out there. It's what we use for the show. Twitch is going to basically try to make it so that becoming a streamer is as easy as hitting broadcast. And so Twitch has announced Twitch Studio, its own streaming app. It refers to as a, quote, an all-in-one streaming app for new streamers that cuts down on the guesswork to set up a quality stream and makes it easier to engage with your community. The current version of the app has a limited feature set ostensibly so Twitch can receive feedback on the core of the experience, and the company said it will only let a limited number of people access Twitch Studio Beta at first. And that's the thing, it is a beta, you have to sign up for it right now, and I don't know if it says anything about when it should launch. It does say that it requires at least Windows 7 as it goes up, and that there were some potential issues with some of the latest Windows 10 updates. So if you do get in, be very curious to see what your thoughts are on it, or if anyone out there who's using it. We have switched over to Streamlabs, basically that Streamlabs version of OBS, because of all the neat social media and access features it has in there. Thank you, Hando and others, for cluing us into how that works. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. My concern, off the top, is that because this is Twitch built, something tells me it's only going to connect to Twitch servers, which absolutely makes sense.
Yep, from a monetary perspective, that's exactly what they should do. Yep.
With that in mind,
from our perspective, it sucks.
Well, it takes away that Swiss Army knife approach of having a tool that allows you to focus on what it's good at, which is streaming and capturing video and audio feeds in multiple sources and stuff like OBS is. And admittedly, there's a learning curve there. Streamlabs has done a great job of reducing it and making things a lot cleaner to get into. And there's tons of videos out there if you ever want to learn how to stream. But I think this is almost trying to take that approach similar to how the NVIDIA encoder works for their streaming, more likely closer to console, how some of those are basically one button push and you're streaming and they don't really let you do a whole lot else. They all have a similar kind of look and feel. But the customizability that we have in OBS and software like that, I can't imagine, but here's to be seen, how much of that the Twitch Studio app will allow. Now, at the same time, I think because they're keeping in-house and they know what streamers like, they'll probably still offer some of those main features that people come to expect. Things of different kinds of overlays specific to games, to your integrated chat interactions and things like that. And who knows, some of those kind of counts you get for your stream quality, how many people are watching and listening, donations, all of those kind of other things that are kind of common today in the streaming market. So I'll be curious to see what they do allow and what they perhaps minimize. And whether or not it is such a cleaner experience that it drives people to it. It's going to be very interesting, and there's been some shakeup lately in the whole streaming market. The big announcement earlier that Ninja left Twitch and has gone to Mixer from Microsoft, and that he made millions of dollars doing so. What are these wars going to look like going forward when it comes to streaming? Where are you going to watch? Where everyone's fighting for your eyeballs one way or another, and so it'll be curious to see how that progresses and where people are drawn. Any other thoughts on yours, Ken, before we wrap things up today?
No, that's unless we've got time. Well, not really got time for an article. So no, that's everything. Personally, I don't care where Ninja goes. That's the
well, no, and the only comment with Ninja is because he has so many viewers, so many people already following, that it was a calculated investment, I would argue, from them, right? To say this is what we're doing to make money, right? Is to draw eyeballs over to a new service. Let's bring one of the personalities people actually follow for him, not just the game he plays, kind of thing. And so I think that was a smart investment. Who knows if it'll pay off, but it's definitely there. And
as long as its quality stays the same, yeah, it will be.
And that's the
they're
thing.
basically purchasing talent, right? So
yeah, it's taking your talent, and so it's like free agents on a sports game or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, with that, Ken, I'll let you start reading us out, as I will put up a graphic that Copy shared in the chat, the link that she put in the chat that opens up to an image she shared, which is that of her druid skills. I'm assuming that, but looks of kittens and cats on a doorstep. And so I will leave that as there as Ken. Could you please lead us out for the week?
Sure. You have been listening to Show X live on twitch.tv, on, to be honest, on places I'm not even sure of these days. Mixer, is that what it's called?
We're on Mixer and YouTube as well.
We're on Mixer. We're on Mixer and we're on YouTube. So thank you for checking us out wherever you have. It's much appreciated, whether it's live or whether it's the recording. We appreciate having you guys here. This show's flown by. I feel like we're only 45 minutes in yet. You can check us out all over the web. You can find us on twitter.com/VTWShowX, twitter.com/.dead, and twitter.com/GoHex for the show, for Mr. Wayne, for myself. You can support us on patreon.com/ShowX. Minimum of $1 per month. That's $12 a year. That's nothing, but every little helps us because it all adds up. You can send emails to showx@vtproductions.com. That's always appreciated. And take part in our subreddit. Every single link to the show gets auto-posted by my account onto the subreddit, reddit.com/r/showx. So go check that out and take part in any discussions you want to have in post about the show there, including if you want to talk about even the more controversial things. That's the place to go.
Actually, that'd be a good place to give us your opinions on that.
Absolutely. We'd quite enjoy that. So check that out. And thank you so much for joining us on the show today. I'll be taking part in the gaming night. Will you tonight, sir?
I will definitely be checking things out, logging in, and see what we play a little bit of today.
Great. All right. Then you listen to Show X on Twitch and YouTube and Mixer and maybe in podcast format. And who knows? Maybe if you found a text format. I don't know. Does somebody transcript all this? Or do we have a court recorder guy with a typewriter? You've listened to Show X. Thank you very much for listening to us and paying attention to us. We appreciate it. And thank you for hosting again today, sir.
Absolutely, sir. And we will catch you guys next week. Please check us out in the Discord after the show if you'd like to join in and play some games with us or continue the chat directly amongst us. All right, everybody. We'll catch you next week. Have a good one. Bye.
Goodbye. See you next zombie. Good night. I forgot.